What's up, everyone? I'm Lumberjack Nick, and today I'm going to show you how cinematographers and filmmakers use the color in a shot to influence the mood of the viewer. And a lot of times this is just kind of a subconscious thing, but it's really interesting when you start to look into it. And there are some movies out there that don't do this, and you would say, like, oh, this is a bad movie. Like an example that I can think of is Birdemic. Birdemic is supposed to be a horror movie, but there's no color grading used to influence the viewer to know that there's something ominous happening or just to make what you're watching feel off. So the whole thing just doesn't feel right. But I think the best way to do this is to just go through some various clips. So I went on to Pixabay, which is just like a free stock photo and video website, and I downloaded a few clips. And I'm going to go through them, and we're going to kind of push the colors around, and then we're going to see if we can make something look a certain way and have a certain mood. So this first clip that I picked is just a nice drone clip of the Alps. And most of these clips are ungraded, so they have just standard color grading. There's not really any grade that's given to them to make them look a certain way. They're just kind of like standard color space and normal saturation and just probably like broadcast standard clips. So this one, like this one, if you were to watch it, you'd think, like, oh, it's just the lake here, the mountains, and but maybe you wanted to say, like, oh, we're doing it could even be like a documentary, like this lake is polluted or people aren't taking care of it or something. So let's just push the color temperature a little bit blue. And that still looks good because we've got the blue in the mountains here, but maybe if we mess with the contrast, we bring down the highlights, bring down the shadows, and already you can see like this is a much less appealing shot. Like darken the whites. Let's see. It's a little bit too far with those. Maybe let's take down the saturation a little bit. So now, like, if you watch this, this is not really a very welcoming shot anymore. It just kind of looks grungy and just doesn't look appealing to the viewer. So, like if you were saying like, oh, this lake is being damaged, or people aren't taking care of it or something, you would probably grade it like this or something even more extreme just to give the viewer the idea. So let's look at the second clip. So this clip I picked because it's close to Christmas right now. I don't know when you'll be watching this, but here we can see Santa, and he's looking at a magazine. And this clip actually does have a stylized color grade already. It's very warm. It's very nice. It's very inviting. Like all the colors are pretty accurate, but it's kind of shifted a little bit warm. You can see that in like the white paper here. So let's make this a horror film about Santa. So let's just get a shot here, and right away we're going to take it down. Going to take the color temperature down to blue, and maybe get rid of the nice magenta tint, make it a little bit green. Maybe turn the exposure down, up the contrast, take down the highlights, take down the shadows. Let's just see what we can do here. I think that looks good. We'll desaturate it a little bit. Let's see, we can push some colors. So this is just kind of influencing the shadow colors. All right, so now let's watch it. You can hear some ominous music in the background. Santa doesn't know what's coming. Doesn't know it's hiding up the chimney. Probably even fade film. So you could probably do a lot more of this, but look at that. We went from that to that. And I mean, that's still a usable shot. There's nothing wrong with it, you know. But it just depends on what mood you're trying to convey. All right, so let's look at the next clip. So this is just supposed to be somebody wearing a mask, using a phone, and um, I'm sure you all know what's going on in current events right now. But let's say like this was supposed to be an inviting shot, like like, oh, things aren't so bad, we're doing good. So maybe we warm it up a little bit. Maybe we brighten it just a tiny bit. Reduce the contrast. Let's see. Up the highlights, shadows. Probably don't want that. Leave that alone. All right, so let's watch that. So that's a fairly inviting shot. I know we've introduced some noise over here. I don't know if you can see that or not. So that was the original shot, and that's that shot. So let's do the opposite here. Let's make this a not inviting shot. So we're probably going to up the contrast, lower the exposure, lower the highlights, shadows, probably turn up the whites. Can leave that alone. Let's bring the color temperature down. A little bit of a green cast to it. Yeah, there we go. So there. Now we have an ominous, much more ominous shot than the original, which was that. All right, so I kind of picked 3 clips here that could be in a sequence. So let's look at this next shot. So this is just writing on a piece of paper, and this is actually this looks like it might be a log shot, but it is a little bit warm. So let's try to make it look nice and inviting. So let's see here. Add some contrast into it. Highlights are good. Shadows are good. Whites are good. Okay, so we definitely need some saturation in this. And when we do that, you can see it's a little bit yellow. So let's try and get it down. We can kind of pick something to white balance it off of. I don't know if this will work or not, but yeah, there we go. So that's nice. And we could probably add some vibrance. So that's a pretty good, just standard shot, but let's see if we can make it look ominous. So already it's not inviting because it turned blue. Let's see. High contrast is a lot of times, like if you go overboard on it, it's less inviting. Bring down the highlights, shadows. Let's see here. Definitely don't want the saturation. Kind of make the skin almost look gray. And then we can introduce some other colors into it. It's kind of like those greens and blues. Those aren't the most inviting colors. So you can kind of push the colors a little bit in one direction. But so that was the original clip, and then that's what we did. So you could think of that as, like somebody's in a place they don't want to be, doing something they don't want to do, not a good time. Just by changing the colors completely changes the mood. All right, let's look at this next one. So I picked this one because this one's like really vibrant, and it's brought up to a point where this would be deliverable right as is. So let's see what we can do to this one. So first of all, always take the temperature a little bit blue. We pull some green. Can up the contrast. Lower the highlights. Lower the shadows. the whites, and the blacks probably need to be left alone. And then we'll desaturate this a little bit. So let's watch that now. So you could just see somebody's going to come in the room, or this is a horror film now. And let's watch it without that, just how it is. Totally different mood. Just girl reading a book, having a good time, relaxing. And then, oh, in a horror movie. All right. Next clip. This is just somebody playing on their phone. So, like I guess you could say, like this could be an ad for a phone or social media or something, like, oh, it's good, everything's fine. Or if you were doing an ad about how terrible social media was and bad influences, you would do something like this. Let's see. So there, like that. Totally different mood. So there's the original clip. And the new clip. All right. So the last one here. I picked this one because this one is kind of like the Christmas shot. It's just something that you would think would be not something you would look at and say, like, oh, that's going to be something that's going to be non-inviting, because it's a very inviting shot. It's somebody walking through a field, having a nice day. So let's see what we can do here. So we add some contrast. That looks good. And take down the exposure. Take down the whites, blacks, and then maybe let's do a little bit more to this one. So maybe if we do, let's do hue versus saturation, and let's kind of desaturate these pink colors here and see. And then maybe we can widen that a little bit so that it's a little bit more of the color spectrum there. Make it look a little bit gray, a little bit gloomy. And then these greens are kind of like a warm green. So let's see if we can desaturate those a little bit. And then we could also go hue versus hue, and we could change these to a little bit different colors. So maybe if we wanted to make them a different green. So let's see how that looks. So that's a way less inviting shot. Like you could see that, like there's something following her, or, like doesn't know that something bad's about to happen, or just anything, like that's where your mind goes. And it's really interesting because, if you were to just see that, you'd be like, oh, it's just a pretty shot, no bad feelings, and then all of a sudden, ominous. So I hope you enjoyed that. That's just kind of me playing around, trying to explain some of the things that I think about when I'm looking at films, and when I'm kind of trying to dissect them and figure out what the colors are and what the director was doing, what their thoughts were, why certain things were picked for certain shots. And there's also a lot of lighting techniques that you can do this with too. But for this video, I just wanted to focus on the color. So I hope you found it interesting. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments. And please subscribe to our channel, and click the like button if you like this video. And I will catch you guys later.